with her. Saha Purusha Sheshtaha, the best of human beings, Pururava. Ramayantya, enjoying. Yata Arhataha, as far as possible. Remain, enjoy. Sura Vihareshu, in places resembling the heavenly parks. Kamam, according to his desire. Chaitrarata Adishu, in the best gardens, like Chaitrarata. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, the best of human beings, Pururava, began freely enjoying the company of Urvashi, who engaged in sexual activities with him in many celestial places such as Chaicharatha and Nandana Kanana, where the demigods enjoy. So you can repeat, Shukadeva Goswami continued. The best of human beings, Pururava, began freely enjoying the company of Urvashi, who engaged in sexual activities with him in many celestial places, such as Chaitraratha and Nandana Kanana, where the demigods enjoy. Text 25. There's no purport for the next few texts. Rama Manasteha Devya Padma Kinjal Kagandhaya Tanmukam Moda Mushito Udehar Ganam Bahun. Urvashi's body was so fragrant as the saffron of a lotus. Being enlivened by the fragrance of her face and body, Pururava enjoyed her company for many days with great jubilations. Text 26. Apasyan Urvashim Indro Gandharvan Samachoriyat Urvashi Rakitam Mayam Astanam Natishobate. Not seeing Urvashi in his assembly, the king of heaven, Lord Indra said, "Without Urvashi, my assembly is no longer beautiful." Considering this, he requested the Gandharvas to bring her back to his heavenly planets. So romantic here. Text 27. Te upecha maharatre tamasi pratyupasthite urvasya uranhau jagur Yastau Rajane Jayaya. Thus the Gandharvas came to earth, and at midnight, when everything was dark, they appeared in the house of Pururava and stole the 2 lambs entrusted to the king by his wife, Urvashi. So, purport by His Divine Grace to the Prabhupada, Ki Jai. The dead of night refers to midnight. The Maha Nisha is described in this Smriti mantra, Mahanisha, Dvai, Gatike, Ratre, Madhyama, Yama, Yoho. 12 o'clock midnight is called the dead of night. So I don't think I have to discuss that purport. Text 28. Nishamya Kranditam Devi Putrayor Niyamanayoho Hatasmyaham kunastena napumsa viramanana. Urvashi treated the 2 lambs like her own sons. Therefore, when they were being taken by the Gandharvas and began crying, Urvashi heard them and rebuked her husband. "Now I am being killed," she said, "under the protection of an unworthy husband who is a coward and a eunuch, although he thinks himself a great hero." Text 29. Yan Vishrambara aham nashta vitapatya cha dasyubhihi Yashite nishisantrasto yatanare divipuman. Because I depended on him, the plunderers have deprived me of my 2 sons, the lambs, and therefore I am now lost. My husband lies down at night in fear, exactly like a woman, although he appears to be a man during the day. Poor guy. Text 30. Iti vaksaya karbita pratotrari vakunja nishinistrim shamhadoira vivastro vyodravan rusha. Pururuva, stricken by the sharp words of Urvasi, like an elephant struck by its driver's pointed rod, became very angry. Not even dressing himself properly, he took a sword in hand and went out naked into the night to follow the Gandharvas who had stolen the lambs. Text 31. Te visrijo ranhau tatra vyadyot tantasma vidyutaha adaya mishavayamtam nognam aikshat sapatim. After giving up the 2 lambs, the Gandharvas shone brightly like lightning, thus illuminating the house of Pururava. Urvashi then saw her husband returning with the lambs in hand, but he was naked, and therefore she left. Text 32. Oilopi shayane jayam apashandimagnaiva tochitohu wala shukchan babrahmo monmatavan mahim. No longer seeing Urvashi on his bed, Pururava was most aggrieved. Because of his great attraction for her, he was very much disturbed. Thus lamenting, he began traveling about the earth like a madman. Text 33. Satam bhikshakuru kshetre sarasvatyam chatat satihi pancha prarishtavadanna prahasuktam pururavaha. Once during his travels all over the world, Pururava saw Urvashi accompanied by 5 companions on the bank of the Sarasvati Korakshetra. With jubilation in his face, he then spoke to her in sweet words as follows. Text 34. Aho jaye tishta tishta gorena tyaktamarasi mam tvam madhyap yanirvitya vachamsi krindavavahi hai. Oh, my dear wife, O most cruel one, kindly stay. I know that I have never made you happy until now, but you should not give me up for that reason. This is not proper for you. Even if you have decided to give up my company, let us nonetheless talk for some time. Phew, poor guy. Text 35. Sudeho yam patachyatra devi duram vritastvaya kadantyenam vrika vritras tvat prasadasya naspadam. O goddess, now that you have refused me, my beautiful body will fall down here, and because it is unsuitable for your pleasure, it will be eaten by foxes and vultures. And finally, text 36. Uvras yuvacha mamrita purusho sitwang maswam tvadyurvikahime vapi sakyam navaistrinam avrikanam hridayam yata. Urvashi said, my dear king, you are a man, a hero. Don't be impatient and give up your life. Be sober and don't allow the senses to overcome you like foxes. Don't let the foxes eat you. In other words, you should not be controlled by your senses. Rather, you should know that the heart of a woman is like that of a fox. There is no use in making friendship with women. So, heavy purport by His Divine Grace and Prabhupada. Chanakya Pandit has said, Vishvasa naiva kartavya strishu raja kuleshu cha. Never place your faith in a woman or a politician. Unless elevated to spiritual consciousness, everyone is conditioned and fallen, what to speak of women who are less intelligent than men. Women have been compared to Shudras and Vaishyas, Striyo, Vaishyas, Tata, Shudra. On the spiritual platform, however, when one is elevated to the platform of Krishna consciousness, whether one is a man, woman, Shudra, or whatever, everyone is equal. Otherwise, Urvashi, who was a woman herself and knew the nature of women, said that a woman's heart is like that of a sly fox. If a man cannot control his senses, he becomes a victim of such sly foxes. But if one can control the senses, there is no chance of being victimized by sly fox-like women. Chanakya Pandit has also advised that if one has a wife like a sly fox, he must immediately give up his life at home and go to the forest. Mata yasya grahe nasti varya cha priyavadani aranyam tena gantavyam yataranyam titagraham. Krishna conscious grahastas must be very careful of the sly fox woman. If the wife at home is obedient and follows her husband in Krishna consciousness, the home is welcome. Otherwise, one should give up home and go to the forest. Itvatma patam griham andakupam vanangato yad devavashrayeta. That's from the Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 5th chapter, text 5. That's Prahlad Maharaja's statements. One should go to the forest and take shelter at the lotus feet of Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shad Nanjana Shlakaya Chakshur Medikam Yena Tazmai Shikadeva. Okay, any questions? No. So, I want to speak about this quite a bit. Actually, the word for woman is actually quite interesting. There are different words utilized for to indicate women. And one here is used, stri. So this word stri is used when a lady is described in relationship with a man or with her family. Otherwise, there are other words for woman, just like we have man and woman. I think you understand what I'm saying. And so the name for woman, when it's not in combination, when she's not in combination with the family or the husband, is not Sri anymore. It's Nari. So just like you have Nara and you have Nari. You understand? Nara means man. Like you have Nara Narayan, and Nara is the male component of the Nara, twin Nara Narayan incarnations, and you have Nari. And I'm going to prove that right now. And then Prabhupada also states that, this is very interesting, for men, women are women, and for women, men are women. That's interesting too. So in other words, from different perspectives, both the sexes can be described in similar ways. And I'm going to take a verse from the Bhagavad Gita that illustrates this. In the 10th canto, 10th chapter, text 34, Krishna describes various opulences. This whole chapter is the opulence of the Absolute. Mrityu sarvaharas jaham udbhavas java vishvatam kirti shri rak narinam. There's that word narinam, of women. Smritya meda driti shama. I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. In other words, these are female qualities among women. It's not just, Krishna doesn't say these are just female qualities. Krishna says among women, these are how I manifest myself. Fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Interesting, isn't it? And Krishna here uses the word because here the women are not in relationship to men or family. In this particular verse, the women are taken as a class by themselves without relationship to anything else. And so, therefore, there's fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So, the word stri basically means to expand. Does anyone understand that? So, it means to expand one's enjoyment. So, the man gets married, or the woman gets married to a man, the man gets married to a woman, to expand their enjoyment. And the family also is an expansion. Pumsa strio mituni matur. Amatober Rita Grantiaho, Atober etc. Sitapta Vadar, Janashiam, Mahoyam, Ahamamati. That, men and women get together, and things definitely expand. Of course, when I was a brahmachari, I would give the example that someone is a brahmachari, they can keep all their belongings in a box, and someone is a brahmacharini, they can keep all their belongings maybe in 2 boxes. Then they get married, and there's several moving vans that are necessary. So, it's definitely expansion. Expansion can refer to the children. Expansion can refer to paraphernalia, household paraphernalia that's necessary. Anyway, so that's why the word stri is used. And so in this particular case here, Urvashi is acting in that capacity. Now, Urvashi is a heavenly society prostitute, right? She's actually been produced by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and given as a gift to the demigods. Because there's this whole story of Narayan Rishis. They are meditating. Of course, that's Krishna and Arjuna. They're meditating, and the demigods try to deter them from their meditation. Specifically, Indra's worried about the whole thing. So he sends down some of his dancing girls, along with Cupid, and Narayan Rishis. They basically just yawn, because they're not interested. And Prabhupada says the person who produces sweetmeats is not going to be allured by sweetmeats. Like for example, we have Sadhvi here, and Sadhvi makes sweetmeats, and if I say, "Oh, I'd like to give you a sweetmeat, Sadhvi," she says, "What for? I produce them all." So, incidentally, just talking about Sadhvi, not as a person, but it's the word Sadhvi. That's another name for women who are chaste. For a woman who is chaste, it's not proper to call her stri. It's proper to call her sadhvi. That means chaste woman. So there's different varieties of women, as there are different varieties of men. You think of things from different perspectives. You say, "Oh, women are like foxes, but men are just like hunters, going around trying to seduce women." So, you can criticize both classes, depending on your particular perspective. Beware of the men, beware of the women. Like that. So anyway, so this is one perspective right here. But of course we find, in India today there's so much trouble with these rapes and everything going on. And these are men doing the rapes. These are not women doing the rapes. I have not heard, in India at least, maybe in America. In America everything's backwards. But I have not heard in India that, some woman attacked a poor man, and beat him to death because she wanted to have sex with him. It's just not like that. Because men are trying to control, men are trying to assert their control. So anyway, from both perspectives, it's like this. So let's get back. So Urvashi was created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead when the demigods were unable to allure Narayan Rishis. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, if you're interested in any of these dancing girls I produce, take one back with you. And that's Urvashi. And she's considered to be an apsara. The apsaras are heavenly prostitutes. So generally, always, that prostitutes are referred to as Shri. Sri, it's not Shri. Shri is opulence, but Shri. And I want to read something about prostitutes anyway. Not that this is one of my primary interests, but this verse sort of like brought this out. And in this purport of Srila Prabhupada's, and this verse is about prostitutes. The prostitutes in Dwarka, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So within this purport, and I'm going to get back to the verse in a second, in this purport, Prabhupada gives an interesting translation for Bhagavad Gita 932. What verse? This is first canto, 11th chapter, text 19. It's really interesting. Prabhupada translates the word Sri differently than he normally does. So I'm going to read. It's the next to last paragraph in the purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 932, the Lord says, quote, Prabhupada is quoting, O son of Prithvi, even the low-born chandalas and those who are born in a family of non-believers, and even the prostitutes shall attain perfection of life if they take shelter of unalloyed devotional service to me. It's an interesting translation. I mean, I didn't just look for this translation. This happens to be the section of the Bhagavatam I'm reading right now. And it's just I go, oh my God. So I never noticed it before. Did any of you notice that before? The Prabhupada translated like that?
He tends to translate things differently at times.
Yeah, differently at times. It's just amazing. Shall attain perfection of life if they take shelter of unalloyed. Because of the path of devotional service, there are no impediments. Anyway, the path is open for everyone who agrees to follow it. End of quote. So, in this particular purport, Prabhupada talks about, and it's really a controversial purport, the necessity of prostitutes in society. Because what happens is that Krishna's coming back to Dwarka, just to give you the scenario. And the verse says, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. And Prabhupada said in society, it's an unavoidable circumstance. Some people or some ladies just by the circumstances, Prabhupada says, are put in that particular position. I'm paraphrasing this right now. And the reason for that is to protect society from bad men. And Prabhupada remarks that even these prostitutes can be great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm not suggesting that as an occupation for any of you ladies. But it's interesting. Prabhupada does not say that these low-class men can be great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is also very interesting. Prabhupada says, this means that prostitutes are necessary citizens for the proper upkeep of society. He said, then low-class men, Prabhupada just says low men, which is the same as low-class, will induce others into prostitution. So, and then Prabhupada gives the example in this purport. It's quite an interesting discussion of Bilvamangal Thakur, who was addicted to prostitution, addicted to this prostitute named Chintamani. If you have to go to prostitute, go to she has a spiritual name. Anyway, so we should just say, Chintamani, like that. So anyway, so he was addicted to this prostitute Chintamani, and she was a devotee. Prabhupada said she was a devotee of the Lord. And she gave Bilvamangal Thakur quite important instruction. That his attraction, I'm reading from the purport, for the flesh and bone of an insignificant woman like her would be properly utilized if it could be diverted for the devotional service of the Lord to achieve attraction for the transcendental beauty of the Lord. And Bill Mangal Thakur took a turn towards spiritual realization by the words of a prostitute. And he accepted the prostitute as his spiritual master, of course, not as initiating guru, but as his spiritual master, which is really interesting. Anyway, so these were all connected with us. So Urvashi, of course, is a prostitute. And so in this regard, she is Shri. I really can't consider her to be Sadhvi, because she is, she's in that particular occupation, she's not chaste. Whereas ladies who are Sadhvi, like Sita Devi and others, they're not considered in the same context. Or devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're not considered in the same context. So we have to understand why there are certain words used in certain contexts, certain descriptions used. And if a woman is chaste, these descriptions don't apply to her that are there in this particular purport. She's not wily like a fox. In fact, the descriptions that apply in the Bhagavad Gita apply to her. Fame, intelligence, those things apply. So you have to understand the context of many descriptions. Of course, in the early days of the movement, and I'm sure Christopher will corroborate this, we usually took things out of context, isn't it, when we're talking about descriptions of the women and everything like that.
Especially when you had some kind of self-interest.
Yeah, self-interest, and the men were disturbed because they were attracted to the ladies, so they had to just counteract their disturbance by criticizing the object of their attraction. So this is a standard thing, just like, for example, I would like to have a Tesla. So because I can't afford it, I criticize it. I don't have any good disciples who would buy me a Tesla. They just buy Toyotas. Anyway, so sometimes you criticize those things you can't have. And so, or that you're embarrassed because you're in a company of people who are just talking negatively. You're embarrassed to admit. I'll give you a practical example. When I first went to Miami, the devotees were going out and collecting money by pinning flowers on ladies' lapels, brahmacharis. Can you imagine that? Brahmacharis were going out, and a lapel means like this, in case you haven't figured that out. They'd go up to a woman and pull on her lapel, shirt, and put a flower in it. And when I first saw that, I said, "Aren't you boys disturbed?" And they were brahmacharis. And they said, "No, it's transcendental. Not spiritual master, but our president, temple president, told us it was transcendental. We're not disturbed." Then finally, one of them admitted he was having dreams every night about ladies, and the other one, finally, when you crack the eyes, the other one said, "Yeah, me too." And then as far as I know, they're all, except for one, they all got married.
Including the temple president.
Including the temple president. Yeah, including the temple president. Temple president. Well, actually, the temple president deviated. Anyway, he had some girlfriends for a while. He had some girlfriends for a while. He had a boat, and anyway, you don't need to get into it. So in other words, and there was so much negative talking. So therefore, one has to be really honest insofar as desires is concerned, and not blame ladies for one's desires. Just like it's not Urvashi's fault that Pururava is feeling the way he is. It's just not. Pururava's responsibility. And she's giving him good advice. She said, "For you, I'm straight. For you, I'm expanding your material enjoyment. But this is not. Use of intelligence. You're supposed to be a man. So anyway, this is actually what's going on here. So just to finish up, I'll just say certain things like the greatest devotees. Shukadeva Goswami establishes in the Bhagavatam that the greatest devotees of the Lord are women, the gopis. And he also has other stories like the Yajnik Brahmanas who wouldn't go to provide food for Krishna and Balaram, and their wives just like ignored the husbands and brought the food to Krishna and Balaram. I mean, there's many stories. Yashoda being loving Krishna more than Nanda Maharaj. And there's many stories. If you see the Bhagavatam, that Shukadeva presents that the greatest devotees are women. So, in other words, anyway, these descriptions that we see here are from a certain perspective. That's the point I'm making. One shouldn't be confused, disturbed, discouraged by these things, or sometimes the men, become empowered by these descriptions. We're the best, we're the men, we couldn't be prouder. If you don't like it, we're going to criticize even louder. So, on that happy note, any questions?
I'd like to say something. A long time ago, there was a couple that was very interested in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
And when he started to read about different following principles, when he started to read Bhagavatam, the Bodhisattva Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
And he saw how much the women were accused of being violent and tigers and things like that.
Yeah. They gave it up. So that's why it's important to have these explanations from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Certain times there's certain perspectives. Here you see, in this verse, you see that Urvasi is more intelligent than Pururuva anyway. She's giving him some good instruction. And Pururuva, he's so stupid, he doesn't hear the good instructions. He's going to spend the rest of his time, well, that's in the future. The rest of his life just running after her.